For a minute. Hi, everybody.
Rusty.
Okay, so it's Rusty Frank asking the questions, and it is December 1st, 2020. And I'm here with the fabulous, amazing, and all-around good fellow, Pete Menefee.
Thank you.
So, Pete, I wanted to start at the beginning and ask you about how you started your first career, which was as a dancer.
I started like everybody else does at school, at a dance academy. I started kind of late. I was 10, and that spring, a girlfriend of mine had invited me to see her dance recital. And I had never seen a dance recital. I'd seen movies where people danced and sang and stuff, but from the opening number, all these kids came out and they were singing and dancing, and I thought, man, I want to do that. It was incredible. It had never dawned on me that children could do that. I guess I'd never seen any Shirley Temple movies, but I was blown away. And I went home from the recital, and my birthday was like 3 weeks after it. And I asked my folks if I could take tap lessons for a birthday present. And I'm positive they thought, this is going to be, 3 lessons, 4 lessons. And it kind of wasn't. It was 6 years. I loved it. I loved class. I was good at it right away. And I love tapping. I just, it was great. And so I started in San Diego with Gladys Bowen, and who had a great studio. And I only took tap. I wasn't interested in ballet. I love the sound and the juice of tap. It was just so much fun. I'm a native Californian. I was born in San Diego. My dad was a career Navy doctor, and he taught at the Hospital Corps School in San Diego. So San Diego's my hometown, and it's where I started my tap classes with Gladys Bowen, and studied with her for 5 or 6 years. And when I was in my mid-teens, I auditioned for San Diego Civic Light Opera and got it. But to dance in that, you had to take ballet from the choreographer of the Civic Light Opera, Marguerite Ellicott. And she taught a Russian version of ballet. Very intense, I still have bruises on my ankles from doing entrechats, because she would take her cane and she wanted you to open in second before you did your beats, and she'd stick her cane between your legs. And it hurts like hell. And my ankles were always messed up. That and my butt. She'd walk by you and poke you in the butt with her cane. And I was as tucked in as I was ever going to get. But I didn't really care for ballet. And I was okay doing it. And yet you kind of had to. If you wanted to work in the Civic Light Opera, you had to take class from Ellicott. So I did that. And I did that for about 2 years. But before that, I had started to act and sing. I got my equity card when I was 14, doing summer stock and playing kids. I was little, and I looked younger than I was, so I did Fanny's Illegitimate Child in Fanny. That was my first show. I did John in Peter Pan several times, which was a lot of fun. And when I got too big to do John, I was an Indian and a kangaroo in the ballet. But I got to work with Peter Foy, who I would work with a dozen times in both careers. And his wife, Babs Foy, was Mary Martin's understudy on Broadway. and she was excellent, excellent.
How far did they have the flying technique by this time? Because I know when Mary Martin did it.
We did it in the round.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and the thing that was kind of scary was the first time I did it, there's 4 of you flying, and there was a chandelier in the center of the room too, as well. And they said, just don't let your wires touch or they'll break. And I thought, don't let your wires touch. We were all over the joint. But I loved it. I didn't like the harness so much.
Well,
But
can I ask a specific question about the flying?
sure.
Because flying by Foy,
Yeah.
they were the most famous at that time for doing the flying.
Oh yeah.
But I've always heard that somebody would be in the wings pulling.
Yes.
But
You
if you're
had
in
your
the theater in the round, where were they?
they were in the aisles.
Oh.
In the aisles, each of us had our own operator, and who could pick us up and drop us as needed. But everything was very choreographed. So just after the initial scare when they said don't let the wires touch, I was in good shape with it. I enjoyed it very much. But I did there was a lot of summer stock in California and Arizona and Texas. And if people knew you had done a role, particularly if you'd gotten good notices, they'd just hire you sight unseen. They just call and say, we're doing The Boyfriend. We'd love to have you do Bobby, or we're doing Take Me Along. And I understand you've done Richard. So I worked a lot. I worked a great deal. But I also acted at Old Globe Theater, particularly in San Diego, even in the Shakespeare Festival. I mean, I did stuff like Pages and things. I was not King Lear ever. And I was doing The Matchmaker at Old Globe, playing Barnaby. And for those of you who don't know old theater, The Matchmaker is what Hello Dolly is based on. And one evening in the audience was the casting director for West Side Story. And he looked at the program, and I guess he thought I was a good type. And he looked at the program, and it said that I had appeared in musical reviews at Old Globe, called Caught in the Act. So he came back after and said, they're doing a movie of West Side Story, and there's a part you'd be terrific for in it. You look perfect, and apparently you sing and dance. So I'd love to have Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise take a look at you. And I knew West Side Story, but I didn't really know who Jerry Robbins was, and I certainly didn't know who Robert Wise was. So my dad drove me up to Hollywood, and the dance audition for Jerry was not a private audition. There were like 400 of us. And it was, it was probably every male dancer certainly in Los Angeles. And of course, the first thing he gave were assemblées, 10 front and 10 back, and real slow. So I'd only had a year of ballet at that point, and I was not turned out. I didn't have great feet. I almost never pointed my feet. It was, I wasn't a ballet dancer. And he cut me. I did it with a group. We did it in groups of, I think, 4. And I was cut. And then the casting director walked over and talked to him. And then he said, no, come back in. The blonde kid, come on back in. So I did it again, and he walked over to me. And I know I was terrible. And he said, how long have you danced? And I said, 6 years. And he kind of looked shocked, and he said, what kind of dancing did you do? And I said, tap. Well, I had no idea that Jerry Robbins hated and loathed tap dancers. So from then on in the audition, we learned two combinations. We learned push from cool, and we learned mambo from dance at the gym. And he would say, okay, let's get three more up here. Where's the tap dancer? Get the tap dancer in the middle. I was not, I had a number, but I was not my number. I was not my name. I was the tap dancer. And I kind of got through the audition. I'm sure I was not, terrific. But then I went in and I read for Bob Wise, who was very nice and very helpful, very helpful. And then I was told to go home, and they would call. And I waited by the phone for weeks, and obviously nobody called, and I didn't get it. But then about 2 months later, I got a phone call, and they had cast Elliot Feld in the role of Baby John, who's a brilliant dancer, really strong ballet dancer. And they said, would you be interested in going into the company to replace him? And I thought, yeah, sure I would. But I was still in high school, and my dad wouldn't let me do it. And they called every year. And the agreement I made with my dad was that I would complete 1 year of college, because originally I went to parochial school, which was a great education, and I transferred into a public school in high school, and they tested us in California then, and I tested as doing first-year college work, and I'd had a really, really good background in everything, so I was put in a specials class that was for college prep. And there were about 30 of us. And we took 2 extra hours of class a day. And we doubled in languages, we doubled in social studies, we doubled in math, we doubled in science. And when I was a sophomore, Sputnik went up, and everyone thought Russian was going to be a major language, politically and certainly scientifically. So I started taking Russian from a gentleman named Rolbach. And the funny thing is, later on when I was designing, I was doing the Moscow circus. And I was working in Moscow. And, by then it had been a long time since high school and college. So my Russian was pretty rudimentary. And I used to memorize everything that I had to say to somebody. And one day a docent was taking me around the new churches that were being restored on my day off. And so I learned Gate 14 and Red Square and everything, and I memorized it over and over. And I got in a cab in front of my hotel and told the guy, and they know you're American, your clothes and the way you look. And I told the guy in Russian where I wanted to go. And when I would speak to somebody, I'd always look away because I didn't want them staring at me. And so I did my little song and dance. And I looked out the window, and then I looked back, and he was looking in the mirror at me. And he said, "Amerikansky нет?" And I said, "Da." And he said in Russian, "You speak Russian very well." And I said, no. And I said something that I always used to say to kind of get out of speaking Russian. I said, "Очень плохой и очень медленно," very poorly and very badly.
Yeah.
And he went, no. He said in Russian to me, "Your Russian is very good, but you have a terrible Polish accent."
What year was that, Pete? When you were in Russia for the Moscow circus?
92 or 3.
Okay.
I was working for Madison Square Garden.
Oh, okay.
Doing Radio City Music Hall. I'd done that for like 3 years for them, and they were bringing the circus over, and they wanted the circus in Russia is quite small. Maybe it's in the round, and the audience is maybe 200 people, and so they wanted the costumes to throw more. It's different if you're playing to 200 people or 20,000. The detail has to be bigger on the costumes. The colors have to be kind of brighter, and so they hired me to do that.
Oh.
And I got to work in Yaroslavl with Yaroslavl is about 400 miles north of Moscow, and it's like our Sarasota. When the circus used to train in Sarasota, that's where they all worked. And the people were fabulous to work with. I mean, they were really great.
Oh my gosh. Well, somehow we detoured all the way to 1992.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay.
But Pete, I just want to say, and to anybody who's watching this, that every story you tell, it's just, I love so much.
Oh, God.
So it's hard for me to pull us back, but I know I'll hear another good story. So let's come back. We're
West
back
Side
Story.
to my taking Russian, which became my major in college.
Okay.
My major was Slavics, and my minor was political science. And at that point, I wanted to be a diplomatic interpreter. But working since I was 14 in summer stock and stuff, I was making my own money. I bought my own first car. I bought my own clothes. And, I was essentially functioning as an adult. But I promised my dad that I would try 1 year of college. And I did. And I got another phone call. And I said, I've got to do this. So I went out and started doing West Side. And I did West Side from the time I was 17 until I was 25. I did the same role in different companies all over America. In fact, I was just talking to Barbara Luna, who was our Anita in several of the companies on Facebook, and we were all laughing because all of us did it so often that we can't really tell now that we're older people who was in what company. Terry Garr was my Graziella in one of the companies. I worked with great people. I mean, really sensational dancers. And
did you play the part?
I did Baby John.
Okay.
And the last time, when I was 25, Michael Stewart, who had been the dance captain on Broadway, was setting it. So it was all the original Jerry Robbins choreography. And Michael called me and he said, I want you to do Baby John. And I said, Michael, I'm 25 years old. I should be playing Doc. And he said, no, he said, you still look like a kid, So I thought, what the hell? And I did it. And now I look at pictures of myself in it, and I look like a 16-year-old kid. It was amazing, how you feel and somebody else's perception of you.
And which the one that you just described, was that on? Did you say on Broadway or?
No.
Where was
They
this?
were tours.
Tours with him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these were these. They were tours. How long would they be in each city?
Well, sometimes the longest I was on a tour was 6 months, and I had a year's contract. And I was offered to test for a part in Bye Birdie at Columbia Studios, and I quit. And everybody was pissed at me. I mean, it was, but, whatever. And I did a test, and I tested for Anne-Margret's boyfriend for the part that Bobby Rydell did. And I guess they decided to use somebody who was, kind of famous. And but I ended up doing Harvey Johnson in it from that. And that brought me to Hollywood. And I just, from West Side on, I just worked constantly. I was very lucky. I was a good dancer, but I wasn't an exceptional dancer. I was nothing special, but I could do a lot of stuff. And one of the other reasons I worked a lot was I looked young, and if you were a teen in the or looked like a teen in the '60s, you know, you got work. You got all kinds of work. There was television, and I danced on the Hollywood Palace, which was really thrilling because they, except for the first season, which was all Peter Gennaro, every week was a different choreographer. So I danced for Matt Maddox, Mark Burrow, and Dee Dee Wood. I mean, literally everybody, every choreographer in Hollywood. And when I started Birdie, I was 18. My birthday's in the summer, in July. So I started, I was 18. When I finished, by the time we shot Telephone Hour, I was 19. And the next couple of years were really great. I worked a lot, and I was sent by my agent. I'd gotten management from doing different shows. They'd seen me in West Side and stuff. So Shipley Ishimoto Agency represented me. I think I was probably the only Caucasian they had. Everybody else was Oriental. But, I mean, they had Pat Suzuki, they had, I can't think of her name, Miyoshi Umeki? Yeah. And anyway, my manager called me and said, I'm sending you to an audition for My Fair Lady, for the movie of My Fair Lady. And I said, oh, great, you know, I'd love to do that. And I said, what would I be doing? And he said, they just want to look at people, you know. So I'm setting up an audition with George Cukor. And I said, oh, that sounds great. And he said, but tell them you're English. Well, my mom was English, and my dad was English and Scottish, I think. And but you know, I'm a California kid, and I promised him that I would do that. So the day came that I was to go to Warner Brothers and see Mr. Cukor, and the guard directed me to stage 7 and gave me all the directions, and I walked back there, and I could see that the doors were open to the set, which was Covent Garden, was on this huge set, beautiful, and I could see a ring of people in the open thing on chairs. So I walked over, and I saw a guy standing there. I said, "Hi, I'm Pete Menefee. I'm here to see George Cukor." And they said, oh, he's right over here. And they walked me over, and Mr. Cukor was sitting next to Rex Harrison and Audrey Hepburn. And it was the whole cast. They were doing a read-through of the movie, so it was Mona Washburn, and it was everybody who had a speaking part in it. And I introduced myself to him, and he wanted to know about my background and stuff. And he said, are you English? And I thought, Jesus Christ, I can't say I'm English in front of Rex Harrison. These people are going to laugh me off the lot. And I said, well, partly. I said, my mom was English, and my dad was in the service. And that seemed to squeak me by. And I ended up getting cast as one of the costermongers. And I'm only in 2 numbers in the movie. I'm in Wouldn't It Be Loverly, and the reprise of it, where none of us recognize Liza. And I was thrilled to know that I was going to get to work on the movie. And 2 weeks after that, there was another dance audition. And a friend of mine was the assistant choreographer on it, Phil Laughlin, who had studied ballet with me in San Diego, and we'd been in West Side Story together. So we were, you know, old friends. And Phil said, you've got to audition for this. You'd be perfect. And I said, what is it? He said, it's a film based on the Mary Poppins books. And I said, okay. So And you didn't, I didn't know, I knew it was a dance job, but I didn't know what it was. And he said, and they want guys who are acrobats, who can tumble. And both Phil and I did. Phil was a California state champion, you know. And so I went to that audition, and it was so much fun. I love Dee Dee Wood and Mark Bro. The charming, lovely people. And I got the job. And I said, you know, I don't think I can do it. I've already signed a contract for My Fair Lady. And I have a must appear for August 3rd. And they said, oh, we'll be done before then. It was April, I think, we auditioned. And then we started in May, and we rehearsed on the back lot. And the number was so much fun to do, and Dee Dee and Mark were excellent people to work with, and so kind. But Dee Dee would say, well, see that roof over there? We had a mock-up of the set that was all on rollers, on casters that could be locked off. So we could, as the number developed, we would figure out where the wall was, where the steps were, where, you know. And Dee Dee would look at a roof and say, who thinks that they can do cartwheels down that? And so 4 or 5 of us would go, me, I can do it. And then we'd be sliding on our ass down the roof. And she'd say, well, you know, I guess we won't be doing that in the number. But it was great. And I mean, I was raised on Disney. I learned to read with Disney comic books. My mom taught me before I went to school. And I would draw. Every time I saw a Disney movie, I would come home and draw it and make little stages, and, you know, I was just besotted with Disney. And he was like, you know, the king. And of course, he was on the set every day with me. Walt was still alive, and we were told to call him Walt, not Mr. Disney. That he didn't like that. And we all had our name badges on. So Walt could call me Pete, and I would have to call him Walt, which was amazing. And he loved the number. He used to come every single day. And they had built a rehearsal stage outdoors, because it's very hot in the valley, and with a tent on top of us, but so we could get breeze. And they did a special floor, a wood floor, so there was spring, because we were doing acrobatics and stuff. And they were just, it was just a dream job. There was plenty of food. There was lemonade every day. It was terrific. And Walt was there, and he'd applaud when you'd do sections and stuff. And it just killed me. So finally, we started shooting, and the first thing we shot was the very last thing in the number, is all of us leaving the Banks house and tumbling down the street. And to tumble, to do walkovers and stuff, they had outfitted chimney brooms with a rubber ball on the end, so that you wouldn't slip when you turned upside down. And it was great on the plywood floor, but it was not so great the first time we shot, because they had a cobblestone street. And you had to be real careful where you placed that rubber ball, because if you got it on top of a cobblestone, you know, it would slip, and you could be upside down when it was slipping. Anyway, we shot for weeks, and finally we were getting very close to August, and I said, you know, I have to be out of here by next Monday. And they said, well, go ahead and go. You know, we've shot most of it. And, you know, and it's got to be so peculiar, I can't find myself in it. And for 3 days, the first 3 or 4 days, I couldn't grow a mustache then. And they had a fake mustache for me. But of course I was sweating it off. So, and it wasn't ruining takes or anything, but you know, they had to plaster it on like 4 or 5 times a day. And finally, after the third day, the makeup guy said, you don't need that. Come over here and let us put some more coal on your face. And so I asked the other guys, there were 12 of us, and I asked the other guys, please not to mention to Julie Andrews where I was going. And of course somebody did. And yeah, and I the Thursday before I left, she was leaving makeup being touched up, and I was going in to get coal dusted, and she didn't look at me, but she said, "You traitor." And I mean, my blood turned to ice water, you know. If you're a dancer on a movie, the last thing you want is the principal pissed at you, you know.
I think
she never said anything directly to me about it, but
I think we just need to explain to those who don't know that he was going over to My Fair Lady, and where Julie Andrews had appeared in on Broadway.
yes.
But they replaced her, shall we say, with Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, she had never done a movie, that was why. Jack Warner wanted somebody who was a known star to bring the money in, you know.
Yes.
And Julie, I mean, although Julie turned out to be a fabulous star, at that point she was an unproven commodity, except for starring on Broadway. But
Well, back to Mary Poppins, I want to ask you, because the first time I met you in the 90s, we met, I remember you saying something that there were some scary moments.
Oh.
So maybe you could tell people who, you know, dancers have this knack of making everything look so effortless and easy and safe.
Well, there was no, what is it called, CTG?
Yeah, what is that, the computer generated?
Computer generated, yeah. There was none of that then. So if we were walking on our hands between 2 buildings, we were 15 feet off the floor. And it was a painted perspective, so it looked like we were much higher than we were. But a lot of the stuff in it was gut-wrenching to me. It was gut-wrenching. There's a pass in it where we run up chimney pipes, and they're only about 6, maybe 8 inches up. But we run up in a row with one guy right after another, and we run up fast. And that just scared shit out of me. And of course, the chimneys, jumping into the chimneys, you know. I don't have much of a chin, but I used to have nightmares that I would do my split jump and tuck, and you had a prop guy who would trip the chimney open because you were dancing on it. You were doing the Scotch section and doing jump splits, and you did 3 jump splits, and on the third one you touched your toes and then pulled in and dropped into the chimney. And I used to have, honest to God, I used to have nightmares that I went right down the chimney and clipped my chin and my teeth and my nose, and you know, it was awful. So the first day we shot all the hard stuff. We shot all the scary stuff. We shot the the exit from the Banks house, and then we shot running up the pipes. We shot flip flops. We shot, a couple of masters, and we came in the second day, and Dee Dee didn't look very happy, and she said, "I want all of you to sit down. I need to tell you something." And we went, "Oh my God, what?" And she said, "The film was scratched yesterday." She said, "We have to shoot everything that we did all over again. The film stock was not good." And she said, "Now, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. You can vote, and we don't care. We'll do whatever you want. But you can either do it today, or we can put it off for a couple of days." Because once you were done with that, you thought, "Oh, I never have to do that again in my life. It's so scary." And everybody decided to do it again and get it out of the way. But it was, the set was way off the floor. It must have been like 10, 15 feet off the floor. Anyway, and
have you ever been able to find yourself in the clip?
yeah, because I know which sections I did.
Okay, when the chimney sweeps come down the chimney and roll out into the Banks house, are you in that scene?
No, that's when I left to do Fair Lady.
Oh, okay. So where can we
I'm not in the house.
Oh, where can we find you? What's identifiable?
God, I can't find me. I mean, I can because I know which dance sections I did and which tumbling passes, and I know where I was on Dick's left or whatever. But when they had the Blu-ray version, Disney asked me to come in and do a round robin with a bunch of reporters, because by that time I had not only danced in Mary Poppins as a chimney sweep, but I had designed for Disney as well, for television, for their specials and stuff. And so I went in and talked to people, and they invited me to the premiere of the Blu-ray thing.
Oh, nice.
And I hadn't seen the movies since we did it. And I swear to God, I couldn't find myself in most of it. You'd look and you'd think, is that me? No, that's Phil. No, that's Gary Scharf. No, that's, it's incredible. I mean, we've got caps on. We're all dressed alike. Our faces are filthy. And most of us had mustaches. I mean, I do in some passes, and some passes I kind of don't. So it's difficult, but it's. And to me, it was just a fun summer job. I turned 21 on that movie, and I was having so much fun. I never thought it was going to be a classic film. You don't know. You're just working. It was just one of my gigs, and it was fun. It was wonderful to do. It was a terrific memory. But now you look at it. And, I mean, I've been retired for 8 years, but I stopped dancing when I was 26, so that was a long time ago. And I look at the film and I think, oh, Jesus, I don't think I'd do that again if there was a choice, if there was a real choice.
Tell me a little bit more about what you liked about working with Mark Bro and Dee Dee Wood. Maybe if there's...
Well, they're first of all, they're the kindest people. They're brilliantly talented and funny. They're just charming people. And a lot of what's terrific in The Sound of Music is their work. And and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. And Mark did The Glass Slipper. And Dee Dee and I did the Olympics together, so it's just incredible. And Mark has passed away. Dee Dee is still very much with us, and it's so lovely to have that continuity of having worked with them as a dancer, and for years, I did Hollywood Palace for them one time. And Betty Grable was the hostess, and 4 of us tap danced with Betty Grable in a number. When is that ever going to happen in your life? It was great. It was really great.
My gosh, I noticed that on Facebook recently you posted something with Cheetah Rivera and a number of you gentlemen dancing with
That
her.
was Mark and Dee Dee too.
Okay.
That was Mark and Dee Dee.
That's a fabulous number.
It is, yeah, it is. I just looked at it again the other day. I'm the shortest guy in that. I can't believe it. And they put me right next to Mark Wilder, who is, this gorgeous 6'2", beautiful dancer, beautifully trained dancer. And I thought, oh shit, man.
I noticed that was one on your comments, like, thanks for putting me next to...
I said, please don't put me next to Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when,
great.
When you came out, I'm going to bring us all the way back to Bye Bye Birdie. Now, that was your first movie, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What was joyful or surprising or...
Oh, God, it was so...
about being on on a film for the first time.
Oh, it was amazing, you know. It was just, I loved it so much, and I got to do so much on the movie. I got to record, I got to pre-record, I got to rehearse, we got to shoot. We shot 2 numbers that I'm in, 3 actually. Telephone Hour was done on a set, but the original thing where Conrad Birdie comes to Sweet Apple on his motorcycle was shot at Universal, in the square at Universal, and A Lot of Livin' was shot on a set. But you know, just being costumed for a movie and the rehearsal period. Anna White was fabulous to work with too. I mean, really, and I love doing her work. I wish that I'd been here early enough to do the movie of Music Man, because that's some of my favorite dancing in the world. And I've done it in stock, but it was 2 years, I think, before I did Birdie.
Can you tell us about the telephone number? Anything you remember?
Yeah. It was my first solo shoot. You know, I was by myself, and all the other dancers came over to watch me do it. I mean, everyone was standing on the other side of the camera, and George Sidney kind of didn't direct me. He just let me go, and but I guess I was moving my head too much or something. So they got Elaine Joyce, who was an old friend of mine. I had known Elaine for a couple of years by then, and they had her stand next to camera, and he said, "Do exactly what you're doing, but look at Elaine. You know, so your eyes are on something instead of, you know,
Okay.
moving around."
Do you remember some of your lines from that number?
Yeah, but I'm not doing any of them. Yeah, no, it was terrific, and I did it like this. And people say, "Well, you know, those false teeth you had were incredible." And I said, "They weren't false teeth; they were mine. I was just talking like this."
Oh, that's so
You know.
funny.
Yeah, and that got me a lot of work in Hollywood. That got me a lot of work. Unfortunately, I never got to do any juvenile leads. I always played dweebs and morons or snotty kids.
What other movies were you in? So Bye Bye Birdie, Mary Poppins.
Movies?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did a lot of Elvis movies. I did Viva Las Vegas. In fact, Terry Garr is my partner in the finale. It was her first movie. Yeah, so we've known each other for a very long time, too. I did Kissin' Cousins, Girls, 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 Clam Bake. Oh, God. And I did another movie for Disney, my last movie, the one and only famous original Family Band, you know, which is, I think, probably the only thing Disney ever did that didn't make money. But it was fun to work on, and my other friend, Goldie Hawn, it was her first step out. In fact, her character didn't even have a name. In the script, it was just Giggly Gal, you know, and she was perfect and, you know, adorable. But, you know, that was fun too. You know, John Davidson and Leslie Ann Warren and Buddy Ebsen, you know, which was great.
What was he like on set?
Nice, professional. I had nothing to do with him, really.
As a matter of fact, I have a question going back to the Elvis Presley movies. Did you ever work with the dancer / director Gene Nelson? Because I know.
Yeah.
Was that Kissing Cousins? Which
Kissin'
one?
Cousins, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was great. Nice guy. Sweet man. And I was such an admirer of his work, you know, as a dancer. Jesus, what a great dancer he was. And but he was a wonderful director, very easy to work for, and fun. And I was the assistant choreographer on that movie. Hal Belfer choreographed it, and I assisted him. But they asked me to be in it as well. So
Now I want to jump back to Mary Poppins again. when you were doing the Chimney Sweep number, I just was wondering if you had any recollections about Dick Van Dyke or Julie Andrews in dancing with them on set. Was there anything?
No, they were both charming, totally professional. And of course, I'd worked in the same film with Dick, but I had never seen him on Birdie. You know, he's not in any of the kids' stuff. You know, Albert has all of his own scenes, and but he was delighttul to work with. I mean, really delightful.
Let's see if we need to answer this.
Yeah.
We'll pause. We were just talking about Dick Van Dyke, and you were saying that you never worked with him or directly on Birdie because you were in different scenes.
Yeah.
But in Mary Poppins.
Oh yeah. Well, he was great. He was great, and he and Julie are just fabulous professionals and funny senses of humor. Of course, you knew Dick did, but Julie is very funny. Very funny, and she can get down and dirty too, which is kind of surprising, you know. The sweet English Rose who played Mary Poppins, and you know, she'll start joking around, and you go, "Whoa, what did she say?" But no, they're just lovely people, and you know, it was a privilege to work with them. You know, I told you that somebody told Julie that I had gone on to do My Fair Lady. Well, the other side of that story was when I was rehearsing Loverly. Audrey had done all of her own pre-recording, and three of us were allowed, who did the thing, were allowed to sing with the singers to do the Cockney stuff. And we worked with a linguist for a week to learn how to talk like a Cockney, and we were in rehearsal one day, and they were rehearsing to the track that we'd done with Audrey singing, and one day at rehearsal, the sound guy, I don't know why, put Julie's version on. And of course she doesn't sing at the very beginning, the costermongers do. In fact, two of them do. And I heard the first guy's voice and I thought, that's not Bert, you know? I mean, he was singing the same stuff, but it was obviously somebody else. And then Julie's voice came on, and Audrey was lip syncing it and stuff, and about 4 bars in, she just froze, and she walked off the set. She just, so she was as pissed as Julie was, but they both came out, terrifically. Audrey was brilliant in the movie, and Julie won an Oscar, so there you go, karma.
Yeah, it worked out well for both of them.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah. But they both were touchy about it at the time.
Yeah, of course, I could understand it. Now, what did the Elvis movies? Again, did you work in dance numbers with Elvis? I'm sure people would be interested to hear about that.
And sang with him in Kissin' Cousins. It was great. He was great. He was probably a mama's boy growing up, because he's such a polite guy that it's kind of surprising, because you'd think he'd be, kind of Marlon Brando-y, and he's not. He wasn't at all. He was extremely polite. Everything was ma'am and sir, and he was a real Southern kid. And raised obviously beautifully by his mom, and that was the big surprise to me, and he and Anne-Margret were fabulous together in Viva Las Vegas, really electric. They had a real chemistry, and but the one thing that he was just so nice, such a sweet guy. And not at all, what you'd think about, I mean, I expected him to be a cartoon character. And, of course he wasn't. He was this kind of serious guy who knew his lines, knew his blocking, didn't screw around on set at all. Very professional, very professional.
And who were some of the choreographers you worked with in those movies?
David Winters did Viva Las Vegas, Clambake, Girls, 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 and another one that I've forgotten. I remember shooting at somebody's pool in Beverly Hills, but I can't remember the name of the movie. And Hal Belford did Kissin' Cousins, because he was one of the staff choreographers at MGM.
Yeah. Did you ever work with Alex Romero?
Yeah. Hollywood Palace. Yeah. And I also did concert ballet work for Alex. And again, doing character work. He said a wonderful thing that was all based on Westerns were very popular on television in the early 60s. And he did a whole ballet based on all of the characters from it. And I was Chester from Gunsmoke, so I limped through my ballet. It was terrific. He was a very good choreographer. Everybody that was working here was wonderful and easy to work with, and no temper, no being mean to the dancers. They saved that for the New York people. That's terrible to say, but apropos.
What about Miriam Nelson? Did you ever work with her?
I did, and she was lovely to work with. I did a Rose Parade special for her.
Was that on the costuming side or the dance side?
The dance side, and then I costumed for her later on too.
So what did you do in the Rose Parade special with Miriam? What did Miriam say?
I danced. She said a big ballroom thing, a big waltz, and the girls had huge dresses, huge tulle dresses.
Were you on a float, or did you have to dance all the way
No,
down
it was
the
a
parade?
TV special.
Oh, it was a TV. It was not the parade
No, it
itself.
wasn't a parade. It was a TV special about the Rose Parade and the history and stuff. And she had this one big ballroom number in it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, I'm going to back up to my tap teacher, Louis Dupron, and I'm wondering if you ever...
I never got to work with Louis. I really wish I had. I would have loved it. There were a lot of tap people. The thing that's interesting is when I danced, my period of dancing in Hollywood, tap was, dancers would literally not tell people they could tap. When we did the Betty Grable thing, there were, I think, 12 guys on the show to do the opening number with Betty. But when they wanted to do her spot with the 4 guys, Dee Dee said, "Who taps?" And I raised my hand. I'll tap with Betty Grable. Sure. Are you kidding? I'll get there on a bicycle. And some of the other dancers I knew tapped wouldn't tell Dee Dee they tapped because they thought it was, I don't know, beneath them or but it was definitely not popular, And there was very little tap. I can name 5 times I got paid to tap after 6 years of taking lessons. I did Tulsa in Gypsy 3 times in stock. I danced with, but the other 2 make up for the rest of it. One was dancing on Hollywood Palace with Betty Grable, and one was dancing on the Hollywood Palace with Ann Miller. So, but tap was an old-fashioned thing in the 60s. Nobody wanted to see it. So very few people did it. Very few choreographers utilized tap in shows.
What was your last movie that you made as a dancer?
The one and only Famous Original Family Band.
And did you do any TV work after that, dancing? Or was that it? That was it?
Oh, yeah, no, I did. I did Anne-Margret's act after it. I did the motorcycle act.
Oh, yeah. And Walter Painter's in that.
Walter, great group of guys. Walter Painter, Gus Triconis, Jimmy Hibbard, Roger Manami. And the wild thing is, Roger had been my dance assistant on Where the Action Is, a rock and roll series I did for Dick Clark. And he, a brilliant dancer. I mean, brilliant dancer. And David wanted 8 dancers and 4 singers for Anne's act. And he called me, he said, I want you to do it, and so does Anne. And I said, great, I'd love to. And he said, but you know, I want to mix the line. He said, do you know any black dancers that are really good? And I said, not in Hollywood. There was only one black dancer, male dancer working in Hollywood, and he was on the Carol Burnett show. And I knew that he would leave it to do 5 weeks in Vegas, you know. And I said, but if you want a minority, I know a great Japanese dancer that you would love. He's brilliant, beautifully trained dancer. And that got Roger started, you know. And he stayed in Vegas and worked in Vegas after that and became a choreographer in Vegas, you know. Yeah, he was brilliant dancer. And he didn't start, I think, until he was 17 or 18. You know, so he's a real natural.
So was that was your first Vegas show?
The only.
The one and only.
The one and only. I never wanted to. I always used to laugh because the choreography in Vegas was so simple, the stuff that I'd seen. And I said, you know, I don't want to end up doing ooh la la, Paris. And there's another showdown, and I didn't respect it very much. Of course, it changed a great deal with Ron Lewis and Maldonado, and a lot of the choreographers really upped the ante. It wasn't just walking and I mean, even when I saw Vegas the first time, even the showgirls just walked. The nudes didn't dance. And they all had big boobs, you know, which stopped when Don started them dancing in the show. Because, you know, you can't dance around stage to rock music if you're a 48D, you know. You'd kill half the chorus. But
with the Anne-Margret, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about the motorcycle number that you did.
Well, it was, at first we were going to really ride them on stage. And we did a rehearsal at Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, and Barry's caught on fire. Yeah. And I was so scared, I thought, Jesus, you know, these things are full of gasoline. And fire was coming out the back of his. And so we stopped doing that. We stood on them and we danced on them and we pushed them and stuff, but we never really rode them again. And it was a wonderful number. You know, David was very clever doing that, and it was different, very different from Vegas. We got great reviews, and it killed me because we did a lot of numbers in the show. We were probably in everything but one number with the singers and a solo that she did. And I was, you know, totally out of breath. And I thought, Jesus, you know, Anne's up there. They've changed her hair, they've changed her gown, and she's singing full out. You know, and then they're going to change her hair and change her clothes, and she's going to dance with us. She worked her ass off in that. You know, all of those ladies who danced and sang, Juliet Prowse, Mitzi Gaynor, Anne-Margret, are monsters. I mean, they're fabulous. You know, the idea of doing a show like that and being the headliner is astonishing. I mean, if you're dancing in the chorus behind them, it just used to blow me away. It really did. And they do it great. And you know, you never see them sweat or hear them huffing and puffing like the guys. And it's amazing. I mean,
Speaking of Mitzi, did you ever work with Mitzi Gaynor?
I never did.
Okay.
I'm not when I was a dancer, I was not the tall, handsome guys that used to work in back of Juliet or Mitzi. It wasn't until rock and roll Anne-Margret got into the scene that I got to work in back of someone like that.
Well, who were some of the dancers you admired, some of the male dancers of that era you admired?
Oh my God, there were so many of them. And I got to work with so many of them. Mark Wilder was brilliant, brilliant dancer, one of Jack Cole's leads, you know, and did beautiful, beautiful Jack Cole work. He taught to us one time Kismet, Nuts Nineveh from Kismet, which has all the hand stuff and everything in it. It's just incredible work, but Mark was brilliant doing it. And he's the lead. I mean, he's Adam with Shirley MacLaine as Eve in Can-Can, you know. I mean, beautiful, beautiful people and wonderful dancers, really wonderful dancers. I mean, all of the dancers in Mary Poppins, except for Harvey Evans, who flew in from New York to do it, I think everybody else was a Los Angeles dancer.
Yeah.
So Buddy Bryan, you know, Phil turned out to be one of the, you know, big dancers here.
Did you ever work with two of our mutual friends, Randy Doney?
Oh yeah,
and,
I know Randy
Alton Ruff?
very, very well. In fact, it's funny because when you talked about that Cheetah Rivera number, Blue, that I posted, Randy wrote to me and said, you know, I never got to work on Hollywood Palace, ever. And I said, God, you know, that's because you were in New York during that period. Because they certainly would have used him. He's an excellent, excellent dancer. Very versatile. Very versatile and good on camera, good sell.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you ever work with Alton Ruff, his partner?
No.
Nope.
Alton was one of the tall, handsome ones. I never got to work with those guys. That's why I always joke about being next to Mark in Blue, because that's generally that wasn't what I did. That wasn't what I was used for.
What about Bobby Bannis?
Oh, I've worked with Bobby a million times. He's a good friend, and Bobby is an icon in the dance world. I mean, he goes clear back to The King and I. He's one of the dogs of Simon of Legree in the ballet that they do, Little House in the movie. Yeah, he's one of the ragamuffins that dance with Susie on the beach in Carousel, one of the kids. And he's another one that, you know, could pass as a kid for a long time. He's in West Side Story, you know, which is amazing dancing. And he was one of the Chimney Sweeps. He's in Birdie. You know, the same people kept working. I mean, there was a core of people here that you worked with over and over and over.
Have you ever seen that number that he was in, the Nitty Gritty?
Yeah, he choreographed that. You know, Mark Bro and Dee Dee Wood were doing Judy Garland's show, and they said, "Why don't you do it?" You know, and because he was a choreographer too. I danced for him on. I did 2 seasons of the Jonathan Winters variety show for Bobby, and he was a wild guy because he could do so much. You know, you didn't do 2 pirouettes, you did 4 or 6. You didn't do a knee slide unless you were doing it under a metal bar that you could take your teeth out with. I mean, he had us do just incredible stuff. And of course it was all stuff that he could cut. But, you know, not all of us either could cut it or were happy doing it. You know, he was a wild thing as a choreographer. Nice guy, nice guy. And another, you know, just another legend. And
well, what made you move? Well, and I think we might, unless I think of anything else, we might wrap it up here for this session. What was when you decided, oh, I love dancing, but I want to?
Well, I told you that I worked as a youngster. I mean, that was kind of my hook. And when Michael asked me to do West Side and do Baby John again when I was 25, I thought, oh shit, that this is crazy. I could look at the future, and I still wanted to work, but I didn't look old enough to do the older roles. I would have loved to have done Will in Oklahoma and stuff, but they didn't have a baby Will. And I couldn't see a future. I knew that I could have transitioned to older stuff, but I wasn't a good-looking backup dancer, like Mark and Buddy and all of those, and Alton. And I didn't see anybody hiring any really old teenagers either. So I thought, maybe I should think about doing something else. And I tried choreographing for a little bit, and I didn't really like it. I was so surprised, but I was getting too old.
Okay, so you just saw that it was time to move on. That's like Bob Shearer said the same exact thing.
Did he?
Yep, he said exactly. He just said, I just didn't want to, be the juvenile for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
And so
he did Jive and Jackson Jills.
Yeah, he started.
So he was a juvenile at Universal.
Yeah.
So, no, I understand that totally. But it's a terrible period because, I couldn't really play kids anymore. I could still play teenagers, but I couldn't play, say, a 40-year-old or a 35-year-old even. Yeah. I look like a weenie.
I want to ask you just a couple of questions about dance itself. What was your favorite of all the dances that you did? The different types?
Oh, tap. Yeah.
And why is that?
Oh, it's fun. It's just fun. It's fun to do. It's fun to perform. I did the stair tap. I did the old Bill Robinson thing on stairs. Won a lot of talent contests doing that, But I just loved it. I loved the sound. I loved the percussive quality of it. I liked it physically. I liked all the people that I liked were tappers. Gene Kelly, Fred Astaire, Donald O'Connor, Gene Nelson. And you'd go, oh my God. But tap was definitely my favorite. And probably jazz right after that. And ballet is way at the end of the line.
Wow, that's nice. And how did you feel when you danced? Can you describe how you felt as you were dancing some of these numbers?
Great, just great. It's great. Yeah. I was always kind of a show-off, so I loved being on stage. I loved being on camera, and I just had a great time. And sometimes if you were playing a character, it was an acting job too, which was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And I loved working with the other kids. I was a real gypsy. I really was. I had a gypsy sense of humor. Dancers are very self-deprecating and also very, can be very evil, especially about other people, other dancers. And because it's competitive, essentially. We're all friends and stuff, but if you're auditioning for something and they want 2 boys and 2 girls, you get to the front of that line and you learn that combination and push. And in fact, when I was auditioning for Birdie, they had 5 of us that they wanted to hear sing, and they wanted us to do Mac the Knife, and they would play like 4 bars and you'd sing it, and then they bring it up a key, and then 4 bars, and then they bring it up a key. Well, I was the 3rd guy, and I watched the guys, and as soon as their voice cracked, because it was too high for them to sing, the people would say, oh, great. And I knew Birdie, and I knew the role of Harvey Johnson. And so So when I had to sing, I sang, I'm a baritone, and I sang it in a baritone voice. And then when they put it up, I cracked my voice. And I did it the second time and the third time. The other two guys never even got to sing. I just got it right away. But you know, it's a competitive, but dancers have a great sense of humor about it. You know, I love dancers. I really do, and I'm still best friends with all the kids I danced with, and Anita Mann is one of the great people, and Leslie Evans, that get us all together, you know, and we're always over at her house having a party. I mean, she had, when David Winters was out here last time, she had a sit down for 40 people. And it was the who's who of West Side Story. I mean, I don't think there were 4 people there that hadn't done the show someplace, or the movie, or Broadway. You know, so it's great. It's great. And now we're all older, but we all still care about each other. And it's really terrific. I cherish that. I do.